This is Harbor Freight's cheapest power station, and we're going to test it in this video. But I'm already skeptical that it will live up to Harbor Freight's reputation of quality tools at low prices, because it's $200, it cost me $220 after tax, and for what you get, it feels a little overpriced. But we will take a close look at it, test the solar charging and the wall charging, which is apparently really slow, find out what all it can run, and then compare it to the other power stations on the market to see if it's a good deal. So what does it come with? Well, you get 3 charging cables for AC, car, and solar charging, and then the power station and a manual. First impression is that this thing feels rugged. The case seems strong, it's got the knurled handle, it makes me want to strap on work gloves and take it to a work site to charge some power tools. And there's a warning label of sorts telling me to charge it or I void my warranty. It's a 5-year warranty, which is really good actually. So I'll charge this up in just a sec. The specs are right on the front, which is nice. 350 running watts, I'm guessing that means continuous power output. 700 max starting watts, which I'm guessing means surge rating. And a 294 watt-hour battery. We will definitely be doing a capacity test on that. It's got 2 AC outlets with a pure sine wave inverter, USB and USB-C ports. The USB-C is input-output, so you can charge from USB-C. It's got a standard 12-volt socket with a 10-amp limit. Then there's the screen, which just shows battery percentage when nothing's plugged in. Around back, you got your charging ports for the wall charger. Yeah, 100 watts max, that's slow. And then the solar/car charging port, which uses Anderson connectors, and the solar input ratings right there underneath. Well, let me charge it up now so I don't void my warranty, and we can find out what it can run. What are we getting? 76 watts? And that's it? Not even 100 watts? We're definitely going to compare that to the solar charging later. The box says 4.1 hours to AC charge it, so I'm going to leave it here for 2 hours and see if it charges by 50%. After 2 hours, the power station was up to 88%, so just over 50% charge. You can actually charge it faster from USB-C, which shouldn't be the case in 2025, but you'd need a fast USB-C charger, much faster than this 35-watt one I've got. So how do you get the supposed 2 hours charging speed? You got to do AC and USB-C at the same time. This might be how I have to charge this thing. And it's still about 1/3 the speed of other power stations in this price range. So I just let it charge like that the rest of the way to 100%.
There we go.
Now I can actually turn this power station on, so I'll turn on the AC outlets, and first we're going to see how much battery just doing this uses. The manual says the AC outlets automatically cut off after 1 hour, and then 2 hours for the DC outlet. So I came back after an hour, you can see the AC outlets just cut off, and the battery was at 98%. And if we do the math, that works out to around 5.88 watts idle AC power draw, which is pretty good for this size power station. For context, when I calculated the River 3s, it was 4.7 watts. I tried repeating this test with the DC outlet, but I noticed a little after an hour that the outlet had turned off. Remember, it's supposed to stay on for 2 hours, but I guess maybe the manual's wrong. The battery was at 98% still, so I couldn't estimate its DC idle power draw, but this number is usually very low, so it wasn't that big a deal. It was then, while setting up for the battery capacity test, that I noticed weird thing number 1. I was figuring out which light I could use to drain the battery at 60 watts, roughly that 0.2 C rate for lithium iron phosphate batteries, when I noticed that there was a big difference in the wattage on the power station's screen and the wattage on the kilowatt. But the power station's wattage was suspiciously close to the volt amps, almost as if the Predator 350 wasn't accounting for the power factor, which in this case was around 0.5. I was pretty sure I'd never seen this before, but to make sure I wasn't crazy, I checked not 1, not 2, but 5 other power stations I own from 3 different brands, and, well, first off, you'll notice that their wattages all vary a little bit, which shows you should take these numbers with a grain of salt, but they all displayed a number a lot closer to watts rather than volt amps, so the Predator is the exception here. So I found a couple lights that together actually use around 60 watts because I put an incandescent bulb in one of them. Then I turned them on and started the AC capacity test. And yes, the wattage is almost exactly matched in this case because the incandescent bulb brings that power factor up to essentially 1. The final result was 0.24 kilowatt hours, or 240 watt hours, which means 81.6% usable capacity. It's not the best. You see some power stations with 85% plus usable capacity from these tests. Time to figure out what this power station can run. We know 350 watts of continuous power output and 700 watts of surge output, but what does that look like in practice? Which devices, which tools can it run, for how long, and what can't it run? To start, it's got the 3 USB ports, and you can use all of them at the same time to charge your phone, camera, laptop, etc. And the 350 watts of output definitely covers small devices like a Wi-Fi router and drill battery charger, though plugging in 2 devices at a time may be a little tricky. I just get around it with an extension cord. Or you could use a power strip to run even more AC devices at a time, like this LED lamp. With all these small devices plugged in, it's only using 50 watts. So a lot more room to work with, and we'll get to the more high-powered devices in just a sec. And then there's the 12-volt socket, which can run 12-volt devices like this chest fridge. Now it's sitting at 80 to 90 watts, and it can run all this for an estimated 2 hours and 45 minutes.
If you're not connecting this many devices to your power stations, what are you doing?
I let the power station run all that for an hour while I ate some lunch, and came back to find everything still running just fine. Some of the batteries were charged, and the power station was sitting at 67%. It's not bad. Next, I was planning to run the more power-hungry appliances like this small electric space heater, my kitchen fridge, and my TV, but we had a window of sunny weather open up, so I grabbed the power station and the included solar charging cable, as well as a 100-watt and 200-watt solar panel to test out the solar charging. The thing you definitely want to make sure is that your panel's open circuit voltage is within the power station's 30-volt input limit. Both of my panels are safe to use, so I grabbed the solar charging cable and connected it to my 100-watt panel. Then I plugged it into the solar charging port on the back of the power station, and pretty immediately, the power station started charging at close to 100 watts. At that rate, it says it'll take a little over an hour for it to fully charge. I also wanted to see how well the Predator handles being over-paneled, so I connected the 200-watt panel, the biggest size you should connect according to the manual. And look at that, it started charging right at the max solar charging rate of 120 watts for about 52 minutes to a full charge. That's when I noticed weird thing number 2. I was just watching the screen. You can see I'm not shading the panel or anything like that. And the solar output dropped to 11 watts. Huh? So I unplugged the charging cable, plugged it back in, and 27 watts. I switched the Predator back over to the 100-watt panel, and that had normal power output. Is it my panel? Well, I brought a second power station out and plugged the 200-watt panel into that one, and I started getting full power output. So it's not the panel. I gave the Predator one more try with it, and, well, it's back to the max charging rate.
I do not know what the heck that was. That was a little concerning, to be honest. But now it seems to be solar charging properly from the 200-watt panel.
Needless to say, I was still skeptical, so I moved the setup away from the encroaching shade and put a camera on it to see how the charging worked for 30 minutes. I know this is a weird angle, but I wanted to show you the screen and the panel at the same time. And fortunately, you can see it was charging right around the max charging rate of 120 watts the entire time. So not sure what that drop in output was. And after 30 minutes, it was 88% charged. And with that, I figured it was time to test out some higher wattage devices. So I brought the power station inside and first plugged in my TV, which uses 165 watts max. And it worked just fine. You can see there's an estimated 2 hours of runtime. But that's to be expected, since 165 watts is well within the Predator's 350 watts of output. Getting closer to that limit is my kitchen fridge, which is rated to around 290 watts max. And again, able to run my kitchen fridge without issue. Most of the time, my fridge is using far less than 290 watts anyways. And before testing the power station's surge rating, I quickly wanted to test its pass-through charging, so I plugged in its wall charger. The power station kept powering the fridge, and its battery started charging at the same time. But worth noting, this particular Predator model doesn't have a UPS. Which brings me to the electric space heater. It has a 500-watt rating, but I've caught it on camera before using as much as 800 watts on startup. Can this power station run it? Unfortunately not. To reset the AC outlets, I just pressed their power button, and after that I was once again able to run AC devices. This power station also can't run a window AC unit, most kitchen appliances like a microwave or electric stovetop, and it can't run most power tools, though there are some tools like a jigsaw which might be able to run off this thing.
So is Harbor Freight's cheapest power station worth it? Is it a good deal, or is there something better out there you should buy? I made this comparison table so we can quickly compare the Predator 350 to other popular power stations in this price range. What does it tell us? Well, right off the bat, we see that yes, the AC charging, wall charging is painfully slow. This is previous generation charging speeds. You see that a lot of them are 3x the charging speed when it comes to wall charging. Also, it doesn't have a UPS or mobile app, which most power stations do nowadays. But every other spec, it's pretty good. It's better than the Jackery Explorer 300 because pretty much everything is better than that power station. I love my EcoFlow River 3, but when you're looking just in terms of specs, it doesn't really stack up in terms of value. These three are compelling alternatives to the Predator 350, and they're all about the same price, sometimes a little more expensive if they're not on sale. The EB3A from Blue Eddy, you could go with if you want more power output, 600 watts continuous power output, 1200 watts surge output, and you get the really fast charging speed. Pecron, the E300 LFP, is usually a great deal. I mean, $199 on Amazon with a $40 coupon, so that'd be like $160 in similar specs. And then the Anker Solix C300 is maybe the most similar in terms of specs to the 350, but you get over 3x the wall charging speed. You'd still get a 5-year warranty, and you get a UPS and a mobile app. But Harbor Freight got the basics mostly right here. This power station has a good battery with good capacity and decent power output for the price. Sure, we found a few kinks that they should probably iron out in the next generation, but it does the basic functions just fine. And then there's the convenience kicker. You can go to a Harbor Freight today, buy this in store, and if it stops working, you can take it back to take advantage of that 5-year warranty. I'll put links to this power station as well as the other ones in that comparison table in the video description below. And let me know what you think of the Predator 350.